Almighty God, may we bring reflection and wisdom to our meeting. May we use our expertise and our judgment, Lord, and direct our contributions. And may we always have in mind your will for the well-being and the future of our district. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
So we like to move directly into recognitions, and I'll just preface this a little bit. First, I want to say Ms. Debbie Heisky for being here with our special guest. I had an opportunity this past year to attend the orchestra that was led by Mr. Eddie Perales. I think Eddie is here at Southwest High School. Are you here, Eddie? Way back there. And what we saw there were our students performing, and we have some really phenomenal students that come through this system and go out and do some really great things. I was immensely impressed with the group that was playing there, but mesmerized by one young man that actually graduated from Southwest June. Graduated June 1st. It's so long ago. So I wanted to invite you here, and I'll turn this over to Richard. You may want to say a few things. Because I think it's really, when you see talent at the level you see this talent and what Tommy's been able to do with his commitment and passion and dedication to his love, I think it's something we should all celebrate and acknowledge and recognize. And so I know it's going to open up some doors, already has for him, and maybe Richard will touch on that. Let me turn it over to our director of Fine Arts,
Well, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, this is Thomas Pusateri. He will be accompanied by Debbie Heitsky, and he will be performing the Sergei Koussevitzky double bass concerto. Dr. Verstev was able to hear the entire concerto, but for brevity this night, he's going to play the first movement of that concerto. He is a recent graduate of Southwest High School, came to us from West Virginia. Is that correct, sir? Yeah, from West Virginia. Yes, sir. And he will be majoring in double bass performance in classical and the jazz idioms at Texas Christian University. And he has received a 95% paid tuition to go to TCU. So, and that is based on his academic merits and, of course, his musical achievements as well. Tommy was the first chair of the double bass section for the TMEA region group, and he has excelled every year that he has been here. And we have to hand it over to also Mr. Eddie Perales, who is our mariachi director, but also teaches the orchestra at Southwest. It is a small group, but it is a group that has a lot of passion and really some dedication to the classical side of string performance, apart from the mariachi program. And Tommy also has the pleasure of studying with the principal bass performer of the San Antonio Symphony. And so without further ado, we'll turn it over to these wonderful musicians, and thank you for your attention this evening.
Dr. Versa, hold that for me.
Yeah, how much does one cost?
This one, probably about 2,500, but I'm looking for one a little more, a little higher quality than this one.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Good luck to you, sir.
Call it double bass because the cello.
Yeah, the cello. I used to play the cello.
Should get a picture right there.
Well, send them a copy of this. Send them a copy of this. A picture of it.
Is there a place to get online or is it?
What is the date today?
19th. 19th?
Do we make it to Tommy Pusateri? I'll start. Good luck to you, sweetheart. Make us proud. Thank you.
Thanks, Winston.
That's all our recognitions, Mr. President. No, sir, not today.
Just so we got Mr. Barajas.
Hello.
Brandon's doing the budget update.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to present the construction updates for Southwest High School Phase 2. And I'm going to introduce Pfluger Architects and Joris, Rafael Bedoya, Galt Robinson, and James Nitschka. So I'm going to hand out the construction updates and we'll go through it. Pull it up. that the rest of the people can.
Good evening, everybody. Rafael already introduced us, but I am Rafael Bedoya with Fluger. Thank you for having us again tonight. It's been a few months since I've been here, so nice to see everybody here again. We're not going to be as exciting as the previous presenters, but we were going to bring music and drones, but not tonight. So we're presenting tonight the first report for the Southwest High School renovations Phase 2. The notice to proceed was issued to Joris on April 18th of 2018, and our substantial completion date is scheduled for August 23rd, 2019, of all the areas. Joris has been on site now for a couple of weeks, and they've been at it doing a lot of the demolition work. It's impressive what somebody with a sledgehammer can do in just a few short hours. You're handing out, or I'm handing out a 11 by 17 that has some photographs, some panoramics of the mall areas and of the Heel area, or the existing classrooms that are going to become the Heel area. And there's also a handout that has the update that, because it's the first presentation, I'm going to try to break it down to general items, to the mall and lobby areas, to the Heel area, and then to the corridors.
Yes, I did.
Those aren't props, those are real ghosts. We don't. No, it's from the other side.
You lost them.
Okay, can we regroup?
Oh, good job.
So what you can see in those images is interesting, because you can see the actual space of what the big mall is. Joris has removed all the school banners and the ceiling, which was actually about 10 feet lower than what you see now. So what we're doing now is basically exposing all the truss work and the existing skylights that were above that ceiling, and that's something we want to recuperate to bring some natural light into the space. It's going to be another week for Joris to complete the demolition work, and then they'll start doing some of the new work. The floor, I mean, they're going to do, you mean in the mall area? I guess we can refer to James a little bit as far as what their schedule is going to be and at what point in the...
The floor is going to be pushed to next summer. Okay, good. And it's just a matter of the amount of work that's got to go on inside that mall, that we feel like we needed to do the overhead portion this first summer, and then the floor we'll move on to next summer, and we'll have pretty much all summer just to make that look really nice.
On the west side of the mall area where the stage used to be, it's already been removed. All the AV equipment has been removed. They are going to remove a portion of the flooring there, because we're going to do the footings and the foundation for what's going to be the amphitheater. And you can see on the bottom left photograph, there's a gentleman out there that was actually brought up his equipment to start identifying where the beams of the old structure is and where possible conduits could have been hidden. And so they've done that, and they've already marked where the new beams and foundation is going to be. They've already mobilized on site. They've made safe all the areas, put temporary partitions throughout, and they've been going at it with demolition. I don't know if there's anything else, any questions that you all have for us or for Joris today?
Just a bit. That's the demolition of the future Heel. So that was the cluster of 10 classrooms that has been removed. That should be buttoned up and completed by the end of this week in terms of demolition. And that's what Joris targeted on the first summer. So it'll be the Heel Academy, the mall ceiling, and the amphitheater structural. That in and of itself is a lot to take in for 10 week.
The main entry, yeah,
This is when you walk in the main lobby and he goes to those classrooms right there?
That's what used to be there.
so you had 2 bays of about, 12 classrooms?
Yes.
So they've removed most of those partitions, so now you can see an open space with just the concrete columns, which is an interesting sign.
So once the students come back, again, the plan is the exterior walls will be somewhat built so that the contractors can work inside the new Keel Academy while school's still happening, but they can utilize the mall, they can utilize the rest of the school. But the build-out of interior on the amphitheater side and on the Keel Academy will be what's getting worked on as students are coming back through the school year.
Are we gonna need the entire school year to do the heel part of it?
As of right now, yes. And that'll be on George's end on how things are sequenced. We might be able to gain it before. The only item will be, again, our wild card with the fire marshal. Once all of that's done, he's expecting for everything to be buttoned up before we can even allow students in. We're more than likely gonna be able to furnish it and have our equipment in there, but in terms of occupying it with students, it'll have to wait till he gives us the full blessing, yes.
Are the parlors gonna be painted, or are they just gonna be plastic? They're gonna cover them back up?
The what?
The parlors?
They're gonna be painted, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They'll be painted, and we're putting clouds and acoustical treatment after the sound.
So all phase 2 should be completed 100% before the 19-20 school year.
August of 2019, correct.
Any other questions? And you guys are working, right? Just checking. Nothing else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
And just to give you guys other construction updates, the grandstands at Legacy High School have been completed. We're looking into some electrical work that still needs to be done for the addition of those grandstands. We're also well underway of the CAS project. Our contractor's now on site. They started painting, removing items that they needed to remove. So we'll have a coordination meeting with everybody involved, all the vendors and suppliers, just so we can button up last minute details on finishing by middle of July for this project and cast at Legacy High School.
Okay.
Southwest Legacy finishing this summer?
Though,
Punch list and all
yes,
that?
sir. Yes, and we're still having meetings on progress, but yes. I think what we have only to walk is the press box because that was done over the summer, but other than that, August of this year, we should be all completed and will be completed with warranty work order, so.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is the tax report.
Yes, sir, we're right at 40% over than we were last year. We're staying above.
And you're counting that a gain?
It's better than being below, that's all I know.
All right, on the financial investment gifts, anybody questions over 50,000? Okay, increase in meal prices.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gatlin's here is gonna present that.
Gonna pay for the high school construction?
Government again?
Good news, sir.
Oh, all right.
Oh, good news.
Of course, in the past 7 years, we've been forced to raise prices because of the Free Hunger Act, Healthy Free Hunger Act of 2010. We've been forced to raise prices every year, but this year they came out with a new memo saying basically if we have a fund balance by January 31st, 2018, we don't have to raise student meal prices. That's the short gist of it. So we do, so my suggestion is we don't raise student prices this year. It's only good for 1 year. We'll see what they come out next year. But that's my suggestion. And then also, the only thing we do need to raise is adult prices. just for lunch, not breakfast, 10 cents in order to stay compliant.
All right. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, thank you. All right, the budget update. I mean, this gets exciting.
Yes, the budget is fun.
I've sensed sarcasm.
Thank you, ma'am.
The last update I did was early May, so I thought I'd bring it, just came to give you guys an update where we're at as far as everything to consider. Our enrollment projections, we finished out the year and got our enrollment for 17, 18 plus, what our ADA looked like and all our special pops. So I'm going to kind of cover that today. We're in our preliminary of our values. It's kind of a good thing. Most of you know that the values and the appraised values last year went up for a lot of people. Not that we raised our tax rate, but it did go up across Bexar County. We're going to see a benefit of that, and so that's going to help us with some of the issues we're facing, and so I'll talk briefly about that. Still working our final revenue. A lot of that's going to still be dependent on really looking at our enrollment projection for next year, studying ADA for next year, and also in July when they finally give us our certified appraised values. And then working out expenditures, looking at our projections for additional staff, subtraction of staff, minimizing certain budgets, and so that kind of covers some of that. We do have some staffing needs still going on that we're working through. A lot of this we're trying to work through attrition and try to make things budget neutral, and so you'll see that we've done that with some of the positions, and we're going to continue to work at it. You have some at Legacy. We're still dealing with moving our seniors over, moving teachers over, teachers leaving, and trying to figure out how we can mitigate some of that. We're having to hire some coaches, and I don't do staffing on that side, but a principal has a hard time trying to match up a coach with a actual position that's available, and so we're trying to work through that. We have Cass High School. We finished up that staff. We have some special education needs that are going to come, and then we have some safety and operation needs as far as staff that we're going to take a look at. On there, I put compensation plan. Really, I'm trying to provide you a more clear picture of our actual expenditures and our final revenue before I bring you an extensive different look on what we could do as far as compensation. And then I just added current fund balance at the end. This document here is nothing new. This was the document I shared last time. Just wanted to reiterate that we are seeing record numbers in the blue there in our secondaries, but we are seeing some of our lowest numbers over the last 7 years on our elementary, starting with kindergarten through second grade. And so it's going to be very important for us to watch this number going into next year if we keep replacing classes of 900 to 1,000 with classes of 800. And so that's really something that we have to keep an eye on as far as revenue. One of the tells that, so the difference, I understand that when we're dealing with enrollment, we're staffing and budgeting based on enrollment because we have to staff assuming that the kids all show up one day. But ADA is what we get our foundation money from the state. And so it's this year, not only with our enrollment decreases, we saw a pretty hard hit in ADA. And so you'll see in 2017, which was last year, we finished the year at 12,771. That's how many students the district got paid on in our average daily attendance with the foundation. When I did budget last year, I was projecting that we would grow. You notice we were only growing about 1% or less, so I didn't put a whole bunch into that. So projection for 17-18 was about 12,790. So that's what I based last year's budget on for this year. But we ended up in 18 going and finishing the year at 12,645. So that was 126 student difference from last year, plus a little bit more from what I actually projected. Now, that really pretty much resembles about an $800,000 loss of revenue this year. But if you remember back in early, I think it was January or February, I brought you the property value study not gonna be there forever, but that helps us deal with the situation we dealt with this year, with our ADA. And I'm just talking specifically on that foundation side. So next year, I gotta look at it. Normally, we've been conservative in our projection out, like our growth, so that we don't overestimate. We're in a different situation now where what is enough conservatively on the other side to actually estimate what our ADA might be next year. If we maintain the same enrollment, depending on this year, had a lot of differences. We had a flu season that was pretty bad, so maybe that was one of the factors. And just shoring up some of our own internal controls over attendance. This number could go back to where it was, or be a little higher, but not knowing the future of our, really with our attendance and enrollment, it's hard to predict. And this is where some of the school districts you're hearing are facing some of these things, and so we've got to be pretty mindful of that. So what does that look like on paper for next year? In 2018, 2019, kind of going through our state aid, I'll reiterate this, when we decided to do the TRE, I don't know if we really understood how much of a blessing it was, because it did bring in a lot of extra revenue, and it's really helped out. But I'm predicting next year will be about 700,000 difference than this year. Okay, and so that's what I'm looking at. So our overall M&O with tax collections and foundation estate payment, we're going to be about $115 million in revenue. There is still other revenue, about $4 to $5 million that we get from other things, athletic events, our Medicare reimbursements, investments, and so there's other ways for us, prior taxes that weren't paid but we get paid on, and so there's some more revenue in there, so you'll see that later. I want you to keep in mind that at the end there, on the INS side, this is that buffer that I have to have in the budget to make our payment on the M&O side. So that's what we need to have in fund balance. And so continue to look at that and monitor that and keep that in mind. So revenue indicators. Right now, our property values are looking to be grow about 140 million is where they're kind of at in the preliminaries. And so that's really good. That'll give us some extra revenue on the tax base side. Know when we get more revenue on taxes, they cut down on our foundation payment, but at the same time, it helps us deal and alleviate the problem we're facing maybe with the ADA. So I really went into the ADA here. It's really long, but I'm not going to go through all of it. Just kind of if our ADA goes down, so does our payment. And so we have to be mindful of that. And then I'm looking at about a 700,000 difference in revenue next year from that side of the formula. So revenue projection. So I threw in the millions of dollars, or the 4.5 that we actually get from the extra revenue. So our total revenue compared to last year, we had about 500,000. We're going to be at 119,756. And then TRS and behalf of the folks from the state. So that's kind of like what our budget would look like when we adopt it. So staffing allocations, kind of cover those. Dealing with a loss of revenue of 700,000 to 800,000, where does that impact us the most? It's impacting Smith Elementary because that's where our enrollment's going down. Based on our enrollment, we basically had to cut 12 teachers, and it wasn't based on we had to cut them because we want to get rid of programming. It's just we didn't have enough students to fill the seats. So you'll see that those 12 teachers about $800,000, and so that's where we're making up the difference in that revenue loss. We do have some middle school staffing going on, moving some positions to academic coordinators, and that's a budget neutral move. We're dealing with high school staffing, kind of covered that still, but we're still working that out. Our high school campus, though, is expecting to still have 200 to 250 more students next year than it had this year. And so we do in the secondary, our enrollment is still trending upwards. CAS is fully staffed. We have multiple positions funded by HEB. And then we have, in our special ed staffing, we're going to need to add about 5 teachers, 3 aides. And then we have some interns that we're hiring. So budget relief. So as we're going through these additions, how are we mitigating some of these so that we don't add to the budget than what we have currently? We had a QZAB that we took out many years back. It's been about 8, 9 years or 10 years, I can't remember the exact date. But it was a $450,000 payment coming out of the M&O side that we finished it off this spring. So we don't owe that debt anymore, so we don't have to budget that. So that's $450,000 that's added back to the budget. Our property value study, because of the success we had this year, I told them we wanna work on it for next year. We're predicting that we're gonna get about 570,000 back for our values this year that they overvalued us. So those are two big things that we're gonna help with the budget next year.
Yep.
And then I talked about the teachers that, we lost at the elementary, middle school level due to the increase of, decrease of enrollment. Continue to look at programs, evaluate other budgets where we can not necessarily cut the program or cut the budget, but if we have excess of funds that aren't being spent every year, we could do something there. Positions, and these are the positions, these are ongoing, these are things that we're looking at, and I just put those on there for you to look at. The ones in blue are budget neutral right now, continue to work at. If you notice, I have over here some of the things in the budget that we're looking to cut back. And so there's some on there. The blue ones are budget neutral at this time, and that means that we basically through attrition, being able to add a teacher because we lost a teacher, or we're adding this position because maybe we have extra funding in our title fund. And those are the reasons and the ways that we're able to mitigate that. So revenue versus expenditures. So if we had to adopt a budget right now before the values come out, before we get a better estimation on what we're going to do as far as ADA and enrollment and projection, our revenue would be at $124 million, almost 125. Our expenditures are about 123 million, 184. So that means we're in the positive, 1.7 million. Caveat is that we need to have this stashed away in that budget to make our debt payment, and we have to have that roll in the fund balance. That's the reason why the TRE works. So right now, we'd be in a negative budget, but there's still room, still time to work that stuff out to get to, and I will say this is before any compensation plans put into the books, because I haven't got to that point yet.
You hadn't figured 1, 2, or 3 or
Well,
anything?
I'm going to give you a bunch of different scenarios, because there's some scenarios where we can do adding the step back, giving 1%, 2%, another incentive, or adding to a contribution to insurance. So I really want to get all that on paper and give you different scenarios and maybe be a little bit more creative than just one thing.
How bad's the insurance?
Insurance did go up in the last 2 years. It's probably, it's so many different plans, but everybody's taking a hit on insurance.
What's the base, on the base one, what's the hit?
The base one, I think, well, depending on what you have, the base one is the less expensive
Just the
one.
employee one, let's put it that way.
The employee one, now we're to a point where people are having to pay out of pocket even for the base lowest plan.
So how much by,
I would say
do you know?
$40? Yeah. Yeah, 17? I can't remember which one, because I'm not on that one, so I'll look at the other one.
I know the employee high deductible, I guess there's not a charge.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to force everybody to that high deductible plan, and it's good rates,
Yeah.
But it doesn't cover anything.
well, yeah, you have to pay all the high deductibles, you
Yeah.
have to really save.
Ours is $4,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, last time we were here, the lady from TSTA spoke,
Correct.
and she said something about the raise, not doing a midpoint, but like giving everybody, you know,
Well, yeah, so-
looking at, so that everybody got a true 2% raise or whatever.
2%.
Could
Correct.
you give us that picture?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I can do that. And I will say, because I jumped ahead a little bit, so I've been studying compensation around the city, trying to figure out who's doing what. For the most part, everybody's been real quiet. Northside is basically saying they're probably gonna do something big, that they always do, and they have the funds to do it. So they're probably, I wouldn't suspect that they don't do a 3%. I think Dr. Versus kind of mentioned that, but he's heard that too. We are still top. I know the last time that they were here, they presented to you, not only were we the top at starting pay, we're the top at 5 years, we're in the top 2 in the 10 years, we're in the top 2 in the, and so, part of dealing with the situation we're in is $98 million out of that budget I'm talking about is payroll. All the payroll that goes into our district, and so we have to, take a look at that. I know Northeast went, basically, today, they're giving a 1% raise on their steps and a 1% incentive check, and they're paying for it out of the study, the poverty value study, and also some insurance claims they got back. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
So Brandon, anything that we do at this point is going to be out of fund balance anyway.
It will, well,
The
yeah,
is going to evolve over time, too.
right.
But right now, we're in the red, so anything that we, as of right now,
If we had to
any
do-
decision that we make is coming out of fund balance.
Well, so I have 1.7 million buffer, but that means that
But you
Our
owe
IMS
that,
payment is
yeah.
gonna be out of fund
We owe
balance.
that, right, so we really don't have it,
Correct.
right. So anything that we do as of right now, it has, because the budget's in the red.
Correct.
Okay,
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
right now, we're budget on, really. This
Yeah.
124,
it is negligible, I understand.
we're balanced budget. Anything else on top of that's gonna
Okay,
obviously take that number, and unless the only way we really can make it up, there's some other things that we can look at as far as, and I mentioned before, is looking at our Function 81 and our projects. We do have monies in there, so that if something happens, that could go away, and every time we have something, we can go to fund balance. The other thing is, the only other way really is, right now, is staff.
what, do you know off the top of your head, what percent, our staffing, what percent of our budget staffing takes?
Probably around 83%.
83?
83%.
Just probably traditionally normal.
Yeah.
But I would tell you, right now, probably the last 2 to 3 years in Bear County specifically, because we meet with those folks all the time, I would say that every district the last 2 to 3 years has balanced the deficit budget. If you know
Right.
what I mean. And
Right,
so
I understand.
It's a state of where we are in Texas.
Right.
And I don't see it getting any different in
Right.
the session either. Right.
You know, I had a couple of, first of all, question, and that is, a step raise, if a person goes from one step to, or one grade to another, they get a raise anyway, don't they?
That's true, but we didn't do that last year.
I see.
Last year, we regressed the scales so that we didn't give a raise at all. So that's another look, what I'm saying, I want to give you different options, because we can fix that, regress the scale back, and see what that looks like, and go from there, so there's different options to look at that. So you are correct, so we can fix that, we can right now, let's say next year, everybody gets their step, so that'll fluctuate, some people will get $400, some will get $600, and then we could possibly do an incentive on top of that, so that would be one option.
So in theory, even if you did nothing, those who go up a step will still get an increase.
Correct. Or if you tell me we can't do anything, then I have to regress all the scales, and even though what we're paying somebody on 3-year now will be 4-year, or be 4-year next year. So that's how you mitigate not giving a raise at all. So we did that once, which probably need to look at the scale, because you start regressing it too much, then you got 3-year
problem.
people making the same as
Right.
the first year.
Right.
So those are things that's why I said I want to bring more options than just,
Yeah.
hey, doing the 2%, give you the options on what that looks like, plus maybe a contribution, or that versus an incentive.
So we're in June, Brandon, when are you gonna bring
I
us?
plan on having that probably the July brown bag,
Okay.
in July. And then, because usually we adopt it the August brown bag,
Right,
so that we can get it in the budget, in
Right.
the tables.
and you have not heard anything from other
The
districts?
only other, Bernie did something, but I think Bernie wasn't even in the ballpark of us.
Yeah, there was another point I was going to make, not that it means anything. I work with a number of the smaller school districts. Their pay is considerably less than what you see right here.
Correct. And I can tell you, right, I mean, most of these down here, beside, like South San, they would have to almost give a 30% raise to even pass this up. 2%, they would be right at us. North side, they're right behind us, and so anything they do is gonna pass us.
They're going out for a TRE, so they may very well, I mean,
Oh.
that may change it.
Yeah.
The TRE pass in the South End, I'm sure that there will be a substantial increase in compensation.
Right.
So, if everything worked out, and I'm pretty sure if we're just looking at where we rank and all these, we could stand to lose 2 to 3 ranks, but, that's a conversation we had. We've been at the top for a number of years, and we made where we are at this point in time. We don't have to do a RIF, we don't have to ask people to leave, but we have to make pretty sound decisions about what we do in that area. So I really appreciate Brandon taking the time to say, let's study this thing. Let's
Great
look at
job.
what it looks like, give people some range and see where we end up. I think what we did last year was a big benefit. I think the employees liked it because it was an employee retention program, and it didn't add to the ongoing budget. And so, I know that there's been districts that have gone 2 to 3 years without doing a compensation increase, and if we do 2 to 3 years of a employee retention program, that may be what we have to do at this point in time.
Do we anticipate, next year, with the absorption of all the increased costs because of Legacy and Resnick, do we anticipate it being possibly a little bit better?
Well, The caveat is going to be our enrollment.
Correct,
I will just say that we have to really study that and watch that, because that's what's happening to everybody else.
right.
And it's happened to us a little bit this year. But, I mean, you only lose 10, 15, 20 kids, and the ADA only drops or stays and goes
Well,
up. because-
we lost quite a bit of kids in the elementary though this year.
Correct.
Yeah, we
So
did.
we have another loss,
We
and
did.
then we have, 200 or 250 kids that go somewhere else. Now we're talking, I mean, that's gonna be another $1 million or so
Correct.
that we have to take a look. If it doesn't, if it stays the same, I can see that we've kind of worked our way through, because Open and Resnick and Open and Legacy, we've trimmed a lot of fat. But we've had to add staff because we've had new schools, and now that starts to level out.
Right.
Well, we
do have
gotta-
some summer initiatives, where we're reaching out to those folks we know who live in the
Right.
district and may have made other choices about inviting them back. We've seen our numbers of 18 less students from the previous year. This year is nothing, not near comparable to what we see happening around us, but, standing up a whole other system in the state of Texas is impacting everybody.
Right.
Right.
And the thought that we lost them in the lower grades, maybe we can get them back if we work hard enough when they get to the other grades.
Because we're actually adding students at the secondary level.
Yeah.
And it's,
Right.
I mean,
They're coming back, sure.
And then I just put on here contribution, I was looking at insurance, and I'll come back with this later when we bring it, but it just shows you, if you look over here, total, what everybody contributes to each employee, you'll see that, we're in the top 350, I think there's, 2 school districts in that list that's paying more for insurance as well. So not only the top paying, we're one
Wow.
of the top contributors to insurance. But, there's a caveat to that too, and I'll be honest, some of these districts have a lot better insurance plan because they're not TRS. So their employees don't need as much doesn't mean that we're paying any less as far as out of our pockets than employees, but that's just.
Any long-range vision of getting out of TRS?
The only way we can get out by law is that the legislators kick us out.
Supposed to happen
How do
last
you
year.
get kicked out?
They kick us out, they said that they
I know,
don't
but how do you get them to kick you out?
El Paso, basically, I think, tried to
Let
sue them
Mike
and
talk
get kicked
to 'em.
out, because they're a huge
Should we
system.
send Mike?
Good for fifth place, does that help?
Do it.
There was talk last legislative
There was.
session that they were about to get, to kick everybody out and get people out of the program because it was unsustainable, and then they didn't do anything. And so maybe it's gonna come back around. There's a lot of school districts that are really,
Can the school districts kind of join together and get us all kicked out?
correct.
How do you get kicked out? That's what I'm asking you.
Basically, the legislators have to make a law and basically pass it that no longer gonna exist.
No, I know, but how do we get them to do that? Do we just go make a
Lobby
lot of
us,
noise?
Unions or.
Lobby
Do
and
we
call.
just go protest?
And we think that if we get kicked out, we would be in much better shape.
Well, you don't know until you get on the market, but
Yeah,
I
you
look
don't
at
know.
Northside, I even look at Hardendale, and they're on their own, and they're racing.
But they're really big systems. If they don't allow us, we're so small, if they don't allow us to get together with other small systems, we might end up paying more because we are so small.
Well, TRS is the biggest system.
Yeah, we're in the
And
biggest
they're
one,
not
and
doing
we're not.
well.
And we're not doing well.
No, they're,
Right.
there's no competition. When you have no competition,
Who's
you know,
making all the money?
the buses go to the
TRS.
state.
So the last thing pending, so as, to kind of wrap up, is we're still gonna look at projections for enrollment, study that. Our property values will come out in July, so we'll have a better picture of what we're getting on the taxes as far as the collection side. Working revenue projections, once that happens, there's a caveat, so this is actually a really good tool is when we use our title and SC allocations. That really helps us in some of the areas where we need extra staffing. And then attrition, we're just looking at staff members and when they leave the system, the needs for the district, are we able to meet the needs without that person? That's kind of how we do it. In early July, the brown bag, I plan on bringing some different options, to give you ideas, and then maybe around July, the board meeting, 1st of August, we can make a decision on what you guys want to do. And just continue working at it, so keep running the
All right.
cost analysis.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank you, Brandon.
All right, academia.
So we have our 2018 academic data, and we have Mr. Baker, who will be reporting on our iStation. This year, we decided to create some goals for kinder first and second. And also with TA, we went ahead and challenged ourselves that through first grade, we would be making that a priority. And so we put a lot of initiatives, a lot of work into that. So Mr. Baker will be sharing that information with you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? As you know, iStation is our instrument that we use to measure reading, especially in K-1-2. We use it up really to grade 8, but we use it in K-1-2 as mandated by the Texas legislature that we're looking at reading. And it's a monthly measure that we take with all the students, and we set a goal this year in first grade that we would get to 60% of our kids in Tier 1. And Tier 1 would be what we consider on grade level reading according to the iStation program. It's really, they consider the top 60% of students Tier 1. And so we set a really strong goal of getting to 60% and then a 3-year goal of getting to 65% in first grade. So let me show you how we did. And I also put in last year's stats. So last year in September, we were at 29% of our kindergartners in Tier 1. And this year, we were at 29% of our kids in Tier 1. You'll see that last year we had a growth of 21% to get to 50%. But this year, we got all the way to 62%. So we really did a lot better this year in getting those kids reading on grade level at kindergarten. That's super important. You want those kids leaving kindergarten really ready to read. In first grade, in Spanish, you'll see that we also had improvement. We started off a little lower this year, so our incoming kids were not where our incoming kids were last year. So we didn't quite get to the percentage, but you'll see we grew more this year. So we had more improvement there in Spanish. In first grade, in English, this is where the exciting news is. Our goal was really to get to 60%, and in 3 years get to 65%. Well, we got past the 65%. That's a real credit to our teachers and to our administrators on the elementary campus. They really made it a focus. So that's exciting news because the research says if you're reading coming out of first grade, you stay a reader. And if you're not a reader coming out of first grade, you're going to have problems throughout your career, your education career. So we're excited about that. In Spanish, you'll see, wow, we did even better. 82% of our kids reading in Tier 1 in Spanish, so that's fabulous. And we're going to build on that because in the coming year, we're going to have a Spanish phonics program that we're going to introduce. And so we're looking to maintain that. In second grade, you'll also see, wow, we got to 69% of our kids reading in Tier 1. And so we're really super proud of those teachers again. And that's great because now when they go to third grade and they start getting that STAR test, they can focus on reading to learn instead of learning to read. And those teachers in third grade can really focus on those content teaks, those comprehension teaks that they need to focus on. So we're really excited about that. In Spanish, you'll notice a little dip here. I believe that's because if you look at the data really closely in Spanish, you start to see a dip in second and third grade. And I'm hoping that our new program that we're going to start using in Spanish will help our scores in that area. I also see a dip there in our vocabulary in Spanish. I've asked our teachers to look into that every now and then, so we'll keep going. But we pretty much improved the same amount this year. So,
well, can you go back to the second grade English real quick? And I want to make sure that we highlight this because we began this work 2 years ago. And what you're going to see when our STAR results is that we really excelled in third grade this year in reading. And that is growing the system from the foundation up instead of putting Band-Aids from the top down.
Right.
And so really proud of this data. I'm proud of the work. The teachers, the principals really bought in. The leadership from Dalila and her team at CNI. And Will just does an amazing job of making sure that we're continuing to monitor this work. But when we get to the STAR data, you're going to see some real highlight in grade 3. And keep in mind that we did begin this work 2 years ago. And so we're excited about that. So thank you, Will.
Thank you.
So I'm going to hand this off to Lisa.
So hot off the presses, we have some additional STAR data that we're wanting to share with you this evening. And we're going to start off by looking at some trend data. So we've been taking this test since 2013 and having accountability ratings with that. So here's some trend data for our math. As you can see, we have some grades that are steadily increasing. We have some grades that had some growth, but they've kind of stagnated a little bit. So we have areas of improvement to work on in math. And then in reading, we had some anomalies along the way, but you can see We have a real high jump in third grade for reading. And then we have fourth grade pretty much holding steady in the same way with our middle schools, just kind of holding steady. And then with writing, you can see we had a increase in fourth grade writing, and I do want to point out that we are actually ahead of the state in fourth grade writing.
Okay, good.
So we're ahead of them in that area. And then you can see that fifth grade science is pretty stagnant, and then we have not, a few percentage points away from what we were last year in eighth grade science and social studies. So Delia is going to give you some highlights from our individual school data.
Thank you. And so we're going to go ahead and move forward. And so what we're looking at here is going to be our third grade reading, and this is broken out by campus. So you'll be able to see how those campuses are performing, and those students are performing at the approaches level, the meets, and the master's levels. That's our third grade reading. So again, as Dr. Fay had mentioned, we started this work 2 years ago, and so you can really see the gains that those students have made. And so looking at the fourth grade reading, again, we have some campuses that have made some gains. We have some other campuses that have taken some dips. And so those will be some priorities that we will be looking after those campuses, and then, of course, having those discussions and looking to see how CNI can support them in those areas. When we look at our fourth grade writing, we can look at the campuses that have the asterisk right next to them, which is Bob Hope and Spicewood Park and Hidden Cove Elementary. They all participated in a state writing pilot program, and so those students did not have to take the STAR writing test, and so they did not account for us in our accountability. So we were not affected by those. And we do have some writing pieces that are going to be coming up for teacher PD training, and we are going to be putting some focuses on that fourth grade writing and being able to develop that capacity and provide a little bit more support in those areas. We have our fifth grade science here. And so again, comparing to what Lisa had shown in the other graph over the 5-year trends, we can see that again, looking at what happened last year, I think there might have been a few percentage points where we lost some ground, but we can definitely look at that and see where that support is going to need to come in with that fifth grade science. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Lisa so she can cover the secondary components.
Okay, so we have sixth grade math, and we see that we're making progress there. And we have McNair in the 80s, so we're very pleased with that, and Scobie right behind them at 77. So they're making those lovely gains that we like to see in sixth grade math. And we also have gains in seventh grade math going on. So we still have some work to do, but we are making progress. And in sixth grade reading, it was pretty flat, but we're having this initiative at our lower levels, so hopefully we will start seeing that as those students move up into the secondary, we'll see some gains from that initiative. And then our seventh grade reading also was pretty flat.
I think if we go back to the comment that Will made about our kids moving into 3, 4, 5 and onward, is that kids are hopefully entering our STAR grade levels where they're reading to learn and not learning to read, and we still have that happening in grade 6, 7, and 8, and even if you look at data trends in the high schools. And so building from the foundation up was kind of our way to go, and so very proud of that work and look forward to the future.
In seventh grade writing, we see that it's an area that we have work to do. And then social studies. We had some gains at Resnick, and 75, so that's a good score that we can grow from. And then our 8th grade science. Okay. And that concludes our presentation of our recent STAR scores.
I think one of the issues is you really can't tell, because if you go down 6 points, the state went down 8 points,
Yeah.
and you really go down. So I think what's going to be really telling
nice to see arrows that go up and down and compare the campuses, we use that internally for conversations. What's more telling is when we come back in August is to bring you comparison data to the market group so that you can get a good comparison in relation to the state. So that's data that we stand to bring back to the board because if everyone went down and you went down less, it's really easy to do it bad. So we want to make sure you guys have a clear picture as we start the 18-19 school year where we stand. But I think based on what I saw in the comparison data so far is we're doing really well as far as meeting where we want to be in the top 5, actually the top 3 in the elementary grade levels. And we see that matriculating now into the middle school, the 6th grade strong scores. But we still have silos of attention that in our district that are going unattended. And we have to be able to be questioned on that. We have to be able to answer what are we doing about it. It's not a perfect picture, but in some cases there are really some silos of excellence too. We want to highlight those, and we definitely want to be transparent about our areas of weakness as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Lydia.
I guess I better wake up, right? All right.
I know, I got
On item 6, we'll postpone that and going into item 7, EIA or EIO, however you would like it.
Good evening, everybody. If you remember back in February, we had you approve the school calendar for the next school year, and what was missing were the grading periods. We had some discussion on trying to end the semester before Christmas, which we thought is not the best idea. So what we're bringing to you is a policy change, because one change we want to make is moving the secondary campuses to a 9-week grading period. So EIA local is changing the words, keeping elementaries at a 6 weeks grading period, and the secondary move it to 9-week grading period. I also include on page 80 is the updated calendar that does have the semester breaks, 6 weeks and 9 weeks in there, along with the required minutes for each semester. Everyone's going the same number of minutes, it's just whether grading period is 6 weeks or 9 weeks. So I asked the board to approve our policy change, EIA, changing the secondary campuses to 9-week grading periods.
And that is so that they can get report cards out before Christmas?
No,
Or what?
It's gonna still stay, everyone's
Yeah,
gonna end
yeah.
the semester the second week in January when we
Oh.
come back. Be pretty lopsided if we moved it. Most districts that are ending the semester before Christmas started school a week early to mitigate that offset, but it would be a little lopsided if we did it this year with the way the calendar is.
Okay, so they're on a 6-week now, or they're in the
Everyone's
9?
on 6 weeks now.
Okay,
It's
we're gonna
changing now,
to 9,
high school and middle school to 9 weeks.
okay.
Need a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Go into business and financing the landscape at Legacy.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna have Mr. Bras come up. Coming back again.
Yes. So the item we're bringing back, or bringing before you, is the consideration of approval of the Southwest Legacy landscape changes and asphalt repairs. Due to our expansive soils at Southwest Legacy, there has been some asphalt failures on Titan Crossing along the drainage channel. There's water that's been seeping behind the curb and making the base fail. As buses are going through it, it's kind of increasing the problem and making the asphalt pop up. We've met with our civil engineer, and they have recommended us to remove the river rock that's currently installed and encapsulate it with concrete. While doing that, we will also be adding a parking pad for the band trailers with the river rock that we're removing from in between the curbs. We have used our pre-approved general contractors for this project. We distributed the RFP on May 25th, and we received 3 bids on June 7th.
What does HAO stand for?
East 8 Orth?
Another question, and you probably answered this in the meeting the other day, but we don't have a warranty on any of this?
Not on this, not on this is a natural cause, rain seeping in through the back of the stone, and it's making the asphalt fail, so,
It's not something they should have known.
well, it's an unforeseen, really.
Yeah,
The problem
rain,
is our
rain
soils
is
over
kind
there
of,
expand
never see it.
8 inches and can contract the same. So while we tested it on one side of the channel that's built with grass, water doesn't seep through. It just kind of flows off and sheets off.
We have river rock and some natural.
So it's ponding up, and it's making it like a pool, and it's just seeping all the way through. As buses and heavy load goes through it, it's just increasing that.
So if we would have concreted it then, we would have paid for it then.
Right.
And it's kind of an unforeseen circumstance.
And who are you recommending?
We're recommending
HAO.
HOA.
Yes, they were the lowest bid, and
River Rock value engineer section back in the day? Was that a VE item or was it a River Rock?
I think it was.
yes.
We were trying to cut down on as much concrete as possible.
I think that's one of the.
They put that in the drainage, though, didn't they?
Project scope.
Between the drainage and little rock.
It probably would have worked if there would have been established grass.
Right.
The fact that there's not is where this kind of created the problem.
And this was part of the exercise of value engineering, where we're trying to
Very valuable.
mitigate. I think we were trying to reduce. Sorry?
Heath working before?
Yes. Yes.
What did they do for us?
They did all the VIP parking lot and the parking lot, softball field.
That's
He's
what I
done
thought.
several others.
Yeah,
He did the courts.
Where the old tennis courts used to be and all that? Yeah, they done a good job.
Those wrap parking lots that we made, he would.
Ready, Mike?
That's kind of what we're doing here.
I move.
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Southwest High School Career Center.
Thomas.
Sir, during the last week of school, this past school year, the week of May 28th, the Career Center elevator was having so many issues and problems that we actually had to take it offline for the fear that we may have students getting stuck in it, having to get them out of there. So we turned it off. The actual motherboard in the computer of that elevator went bad. So because it was a 1992 version of whenever that building was built, we'd never done anything to it before. So we went in and priced it out with EMR, who is our contracted elevator service maintenance contract right now. They went through and checked it out, and it was basically they told us that we had to replace the whole system. And since we're already going in there, we might as well replace a new pump and basically all the guts of it. The only thing staying is the rails in the cab, and even the inside of the cab is going to be new. It's just the actual metal cab piece that goes up and down. With that, there are also, when you upgrade it, there are some building codes that we had to do as far as fire rating and fire sprinkler systems. So there are a few other contractors that we already have on contract, Allied Fire Protection and some others that are going to do some miscellaneous work there to get it up to code and allow it to function properly. It will be done prior to the first day of school, but probably right up to the first day of school. It's like a 8 to 10 week lead item just to get it in and built and get it here on site. And they said they're going to work. They think they can get it in 2 weeks, so it should be in right before the first day of school.
And do all those improvements, are they all included in 66,000?
Yes, sir. The actual elevator itself is $57,850, and then everything, all the other smaller items, I just lumped them into a not to exceed for $66,000.
I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Grounds crew shop.
Yes, sir. We had budgeted in this year to provide a shop similar to what we have here at our main campus to house equipment, tractors, shredders, mowers, trucks, and things. So when our guys get here, as far as grounds crew guys, when they get here, they're basically punching in and then leaving straight over there. There's not going to be a lot of windshield time hauling equipment back and forth. we'll be able to just go straight there, get on the equipment, start working. At the end of the day, they can clean it up and do what they need to do and leave it there and just drive back. So this has always been something that we had been looking to do. It wasn't able to be, it was another item that was VE'd out of the original budget on the Joris contract. We're doing it with the smaller GCs, and we're actually, this portion of the work is for the metal building and the structural slab only. Our technicians are actually going to put in a restroom and the lighting that needs to be in that building to save a little bit of money. But we're putting a restroom in the building, that way the guys, they're not always comfortable going into a school building with the kids and everybody trying to find a restroom to use. So
How many guys are working over there, Thomas, every day?
there's usually a crew of 3 at least can probably stay there pretty much the whole time. We don't have them there the whole time. We just don't have enough people to. So there's people bouncing back and forth. So there are times where if it, like after a rain or something and it kind of pops up fast, we just take the whole crew over there and knock the whole place out. Yeah. But really, a 3-man crew could stay there all day long, every day of the week, and be busy the whole time.
Work on leaving a crew over there all the time.
So
That's what we find.
that's the intent. Once
Let them
we
punch
get
in
all
over
that.
there and be done with it.
So this will be a new building, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, ma'am. It's just a metal building. It's going to be real close to the welding shop in the back.
Behind
We
the,
are gonna
by the
put
CT building, right next to CT building and the welding shop, there's a little grassy area about outside the fence there.
So it'll be able to attach to the sewer really easy there.
For storage, for the.
That is also, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. It's a 3-stall building for the ground side. On the back side of that, there's going to be a 10 by 50 storage area for the electric car team to have all of their stuff and cars and solar array and everything in. So that we're kind of placing it where the roll-up door for the kids and their storage is inside the fence, and then all our guys will only be entering from outside.
got your
That way
bids already?
we don't have people intermingling. I'm sorry, sir?
You got your bids already?
Yes, sir. We're recommending that the board approve SBM, who is Sean Mulvihill, to put in the slab and erect the metal building for a contract amount not to exceed $99,950.
I move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Copier fleet.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mark Figueroa is going to present this item.
Good evening, everybody.
Afternoon, sir.
Our current 48-month lease expires on August 31st for our fleet of 96 copiers. We issued out an RFP for a new fleet of copiers that's going to increase to 107. We had to accommodate for the 2 new schools that we added the last couple of years. We had 6 qualified vendors provide proposals. We formed a district committee to provide input on selecting a copier vendor, but also to provide feedback on the features that they're looking for their specific areas, both at the campus and the departmental levels. District staff is recommending that Canon Solutions America, Inc. be awarded a 48-month lease contract for the district's new copier fleet. The DIR state contract will be utilized for this 4-year lease. This 48-month lease contract will cost the district approximately $315,088.64 annually. We will not be charged for overages of the copies or for supplies associated with the copiers, such as staples. The only thing we'll be on the hook for will be paper. Copies are paid by campus departmental funds, and it's usually with a fixed cost that we budget for annually. The district staff is recommending that the board award a 48-month lease contract for the Southwest ISD district-wide copier fleet to Canon Solutions America at a cost not to exceed $315,088.64 per year.
Questions? Motion.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. The CEP program.
Yes, Mr. Gavin's coming back up. Present this topic. A couple years back, we came to the board, we presented on this topic about being a CEP school system, with some schools getting free breakfast and lunch, and so we did that, and the board approved that, and so we have some good news that we'd like to share with you on the kind of expanding that.
So yeah, in 2015, you all approved 8 schools, Mayo Creek, McCullough, Union Creek,
Denton Cove and Spicewood Elementary. Community eligibility program is basically, they're not using applications. It's percentage is based on kids that are TANF, SNAP, category eligible kids like migrant, foster, homeless. And what's interesting is, for some reason last year they redid their system, the state did, and since we got on in 2015, our numbers really haven't changed, because last year there was a drastic increase. To still state that 100%, which 100% free means
Yeah.
that every kid that eats, we get reimbursed 100%. We're asking to add Southwest Legacy, McNair, Resnick, Southwest Elementary, Sun Valley, Big Country, Elm Creek, and Creedwell. If we add all those schools, we would still be able to get, all kids would eat free, and we would get 100% reimbursement. The only ones that would not be added would be Southwest High School, Creedwell, and the new CASTEM, which one reason it wouldn't be added is because we don't have any data.
Creewald is on there. They're
It's
not.
on the list.
He meant
I mean
Scobie.
Scobie,
He
I'm
meant
sorry.
Scobie.
Oh, it's Scobie.
Say Scobie's
Yeah,
not.
Southwest. We couldn't make it work in the percentages.
So they didn't used to qualify, and now they qualify.
Actually, we have one more year on what we did in 2015, but I'm recommending that we do
Yeah.
it before the 4-year cycle,
Right.
um,
They're in.
because they're in.
Mhm.
And you don't know how the system's gonna change, you don't know if the factory will change, so we'll be in for 4 years.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We have to do
Yeah.
it anyway.
That's
because-
good.
We have to do something anyway, because we took Southwest Academy off, so we have to redo our percentage anyway.
Okay.
So, I think it's a great thing.
So the only one that's not in is the high school and Scobie.
Scobie.
Okay.
And I think a lot of,
We were really
we
shooting
didn't want to
for-
stay at 100% because Brandon with the SC funding.
It's directly tied to SCE and title funds on all your direct searches.
Could you add the CASTEM if you got the data for the school, or as soon as the school year starts, if they meet the criteria? Can you add them?
You'd have to have the data before April 1st of this last year.
Oh, before
So
April
they have to be
1st.
established for.
They have to be established.
Correct.
Now, next year we could try to add them, but if you change and add them, the whole percentage will change again.
Right.
So we just have to see in April 1st before we start.
What happens? Well, that's pretty good.
What is the
That's a
reason,
win-win.
what is the
I mean,
main
nothing to
reason?
lose.
Good. No, it's great. Kids eat.
Economically disadvantaged and meeting the criteria.
I mean, I'm just wondering because of all of the schools that actually feed into that and.
Well, some of the schools we were able to, they allow you to put schools with other schools. So you have a high school with economically disadvantaged, they let you group them. I'll let Winston explain it.
Well, if we grouped everybody together, we'd be at 93.5%. So that means every meal that we serve, say at Scobie, we serve 500 meals.
Yeah.
93.5% of that 500 would be free. and the
Okay.
rest, at 6.5% would be paid students. There's no reduced anymore.
Okay.
So, I've grouped them every which way you can, and it ends up, if you group them together, it comes out basically the same.
Right.
And nothing, I mean.
You got the max, basically. You got the maximum amount.
The best possible way we
Correct.
can get
Yeah.
the
That's
benefit worth.
Correct.
That's
It's all
good.
tied to other funding mechanisms. So that was the
Yeah.
other important piece, to make sure we don't lose funds from SCE or any title doing this.
It simplifies everything for you too, right? Just
better
no
get a
more
motion before they
applications, no
change.
more.
That sounds good. I'm.
That's so moved.
The
Second.
big thing for me is that
Keith made the motion.
no more worried
I
about,
seconded.
Money coming in and,
well, worried about
Made the motion, I
debt,
seconded.
because we let kids charge.
right,
We're sitting at $8,000 a
Cut
student.
them off.
managing that system. Right.
School district has to pay for it.
Thank you.
All right.
We already moved.
That's good.
So
Thank you.
I'm recommending to add McCullough, Indian Creek, Bob Hope, Sky Harbor, Big Cove, Spicewood, Meadow Creek, Southwest Legacy, McNair, Resnick, Southwest Elementary, Sun Valley, Big Country, Elm Creek, and Creewell.
And the board.
And the board,
All right, thank you. There's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, Winston. All right, we're going to make a little money here, selling the 1.69 property at McNair.
Mona.
Yes, sir, we had originally presented this same item back in November. We were bringing it back because after we presented the item, during the closing process, the county actually put a stop and hold on the project. They went back to the drawing board, I think, and realized they needed a little bit additional acreage from us. So instead of it being 1.48 acres, they're actually asking for 1.69. 1.69, so it's 0.21 acres more. We made the deal with Bear County to use the same square foot pricing, so instead of it being $14,058, the price we'll receive is $16,189 from Bear County.
Is that where they're gonna straighten the road?
We're straightening the road out, and the majority, I mean, pretty much 100% of what they're buying from us is in the floodplain of the creek anyway. So really, there was nothing we would have been able to do with the land, so it really will help the whole situation.
That help Randy's budget?
It's oceanfront property in Arizona.
We're looking for money everywhere.
I have it. I wanted to buy the whole thing.
Will that help you get another teacher, Brian?
Hey, any money helps.
Sounds like to me it divides by 7 pretty easy.
I move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Dr. Versta, one more thing.
No, sir, we still have an item under approval of instructions, sir.
Do you, sir? Where did I miss it? Well, as usual. Scholarship Committee.
Yes, sir. So,
Jesse, how could I have missed you?
it's happened to me before, sir. Good evening, board members. So back in March, we brought a disbursement option from the Southwest Scholarship Committee to the group, and it was approved. And we started passing out award letters to the students in April. And so in that process of passing out those letters, we got some feedback from some of our students. And some of that feedback included, was from one of one particular student family, which was our salutatorian. And what they asked, basically, Dr. Verstappen and ourselves, was if we could consider kind of the body of work of the students who are in that top 5, top 10 for what they've been doing. So currently the practice is the students who apply for the scholarship, they have to meet a criteria. Once they meet that criteria, there's a series of essays that they write. We have a group that then scores those essays, and then we basically force rank the kids and then determine how many dollars we have and break those out into different disbursement options. And so what the parents approached Dr. Verstappen and myself about and said, can we give the kids some more credit for what they basically do the 12, 13 years that they're with us over the course of time, especially those students who are in that top 5. And so we took that, and I know Dr. Verstappen and I had a conversation about it, and we really kind of saw that as something that we really kind of needed to consider for those students in that top 5 group. And I say top 5 because next year we'll have the 2 high schools, and we really want to honor the work that those students have put in over the course of that time. We thought it was a very fair consideration for those students. And so we went back and looked at those students who were in our top 5 this year, and we saw that there were 3 students in there who had received the lower end amount. So there's a level 1, the highest, level 2 is the second highest, and then level 3 is the lowest amount that we give. And we had 3 students that had fallen in that, and they were in that top 5 category. And so we wanted to go back this year and see if we could ask your consideration for looking at those top 5 students who graduate each year at Legacy, at Southwest High School, to receive the top 2, the valedictorian and the salutatorian would get the level 1 amount, which is the highest amount. And then those students who fall in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th, of course, this is if they apply, would get that second amount, which is the level 2 amount.
Which will be what now?
Right now, that amount this year was $2,500
For level 2.
for level 2.
For level 1.
Correct.
But didn't we
So
have,
the plan here is putting a threshold. What the argument was, and I think it's a very valid argument, is that so the body of work that these kids have done by staying up late, doing all their work, basically doing everything you guys told them to do, kind of culminates into a one-page letter. One-page letter was written, was vetted through other teachers, and so when these kids are making all these right decisions over the course of years, shouldn't there be a threshold? And I seem to agree. I mean, there should be a threshold to honor those students who have put in the time and the effort, and not for everyone, but just those.
I agree completely, and I can tell you for a fact this became something that the committee talked about years ago, and the committee of people in this district voted it down. I know I was in favor of this a long time ago.
I want to bring something up because 10 years ago when I got on the board, I was on that committee for several years. And I don't know, I want to say that what was, and I don't know if this is true or not, that apparently that the reason that we decided to put these scholarships up was so that average, I don't want to say average, I want to say students that are not top tier students would have an opportunity to get a little bit of monies, even just to maybe like start community college. And I believe the conversation was that those top tier students, especially at our high school, because it's such a large high school, it's very competitive, if they're in the top 5, that these kids tend to receive thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in scholarships, because people vie for universities, vie for the, you know, for the top level students in our high school. And I want to say that the conversation was that that those students have so many more outlets and so many more resources to access already, and that I thought that the reason that these monies were set up were so that especially CATE students and especially average students that would never have access to the scholarships would have access to something.
That's
I
what I
kind of
remember,
disagree
too.
with her in that I know for a fact that salutatorians have graduated from this high school and not got a penny.
No, I know, but that is what the original
intent.
conversation. I remember Mr. Alvarado was very adamant about that part, that everybody was on a level playing field. I mean, we were in the same situation when Joe graduated. He got $500 with his essay, and John got more. I mean, it's just based on how well they were able to write. But sorry, Joe. But I don't even think that would necessarily work though, because we had 4,000. How many $4,000 scholarships did we give? We gave quite a few.
This year, it was about 5.
5.
Right.
So if we're gonna give the top 2 automatically 4, then that would technically leave a $4,000 scholarship that the 3, 4, and 5 would not get. Wouldn't have the opportunity to get if we're automatically giving them a 2.
Trying to value those students.
No, I know we're trying to value, but
But we're going against what the intended.
It would be 2 because one of them actually got one of the highest.
Right, but the original intended, my understanding was the original intent of giving out these scholarships was to reach as many students as we could that would not necessarily be able to compete for scholarships just in the general.
But then the study that you did, if you'll go back and look, found out that the bottom part of this not hardly ever, that's not a correct word, but we're using it less and money was coming back from that back end that was being picked up later on, rather than the top people that were actually using the money.
So I think things change and evolve over time, and I've been on the committee for as long as it existed. Actually wrote the first guidelines. It does change.
Did the guidelines change, Lloyd?
Spread this money, build an endowment, which we did, spread the money over time. What we see is at one point in time, we turned the corner and said, you know what, we're gonna give these level 1, level 2s, and everything else we're gonna split out amongst everybody. Everyone's gonna get something, and so we don't see those being used at a high level, a high rate. I'm gonna tell you, I don't think that our top 10 students really have access. Some of them do, and some of them do what they should be doing and do the applications. But I don't think for the most part, everyone in the top 10 has access to a lot of money post-high school at all. I think this is more of this is how my district's gonna send me off, remembering, you know, I think the point of pride to be eval, to be a Sal, to be in the top 5 was if they do the application, they meet all the criteria, they write the same paper that someone else did, and it was subjective as we send it out to scores, which I think we also need to change, sending it out to external scores, not using internal scores in our district, which is another change I think we gotta do. But I think, like, should there be a threshold, if they meet all that criteria, that if you're in that top 10, should there be a threshold that says they met all the same criteria? And how do you know that one page really defined something that says we're going to distribute these out in a certain way? It was more of this is how your district remembers you by doing all the right things, I think was a question that really got me thinking about it. So, it was like,
So we want to change the guidelines basically then.
we want to set, the recommendation is to set a threshold for the top 5 Southwest Legacy graduates and the top 5 Southwest High School graduates moving forward. Now, most of those students already get the highest level, or most of them already get the second. If we look through the top 10 this last year, there were 3 of the students in the top 10 that got the lowest level. And there were probably about 3 or 4 that didn't apply at all. Of the remainder, they were already there, but there were like 1 or 2, I think there were 1 or 2 in the top 5 that did not have a threshold. So it's not a huge amount that it impacts. It's more of a honorarium type acknowledgement that you work hard, you do these things, or you're going to leave this district with this great letter. I think what really upset the parents was, okay, my daughter's got this recognition she's getting. You guys send me this letter that says she didn't do what she's supposed to do at the end of her experience when you recognize her at the ceremony too. And so they had about a point. I mean,
What do you want to do? Do you want to take a figure of money and set it aside for this?
I just want to set a threshold.
And we have to also.
Can we have more
we also have
conversation
Legacy
about
coming
it?
on board now too, so we gotta split that money.
Right. And how much money is that gonna be, and what are the amounts, and does this merit more conversation, or you want us to make a decision right now?
Well, I mean.
Can I say something? Since I wrote those first guidelines, over 100 years ago,
That's the problem.
but I will tell you,
Only 99.
because I wrote them doesn't mean that's what whatever we had then doesn't mean that's what we ought to have now. We were interested, because all of us have had situations where kids have done really, really well, but they had no offer, no scholarships at all. And this was an attempt to come up with some money for those who were not going to be offered those. I will tell you that there are people in this graduating class and every graduating class in the top 10, in the top 5, who don't get any offers, any money at all. And so I would think that if a person gets in the top 5, then we ought to recognize that, as well as the others that we want to get to. But it's very disheartening for a person to make the top 2 and be the salutatorian and get the second rank of the scholarship.
I think what we may want to look at is, in lieu of replacing these top 5 at each high school with monies that we're currently already giving away, find a way
Yes.
to set aside additional monies, which I think we have now, for those top 10, if they apply.
And it's separate.
Okay, and it's not going to affect the money we're already giving to the big group.
So as we go into the October meeting about the scholarship, and so the scholarship committee is a recommending committee to the board. The board is the only one who can make the changes. So going into that meeting, what we'd like to do is to go in there and say, we're going to have a threshold for the top 5. The balance out are going to be, their threshold is level 1, number 3, number 4, number 5, their threshold is number 2. Everyone else is up for grabs, because what Dr. Byram explained, to have that conversation with the parent and basically have to explain that it was all determined by a letter, which it is for everyone, I get that. And not giving value to all the other decisions that student made throughout the 13 years here, because this scenario was a student that was here K through all the way through the system. They felt as a slap in the face by their home district.
I find that, yeah, but I had a salutatorian, and not everybody gave her money. Some people did, some people didn't. Alex was a salutatorian. Some of our children have graduated at the top, and I mean, not everybody gave them money. Some people did, some people didn't, whatever. I'm just saying, I don't know. I thought that the intent was one, and we're gonna change that with this.
Have we thought about maybe putting a weight to, like, extra points if you're valedictorian, extra, like, kind of, I don't know.
Well,
I'm not really comfortable at this point voting on it. I'd like to have a little bit more conversation to vote.
I would too.
Just
I still don't understand what you're
Bring
recommending.
that to the other brown bag we're talking
That
about.
if you're a balanced style, you meet all the criteria to apply, you do the application of the letter, that the least amount you can make is level 1. That's what I'm saying.
Regardless of the
Which
essay.
majority of them already do.
Right.
That's just going to impact, in this case, it impacts.
How are you going to go in and figure the dollars?
One student for that.
That's
No,
every
this-
year they
This case, it
figure.
would impact one student, because
Are we gonna retro it, or
I
what?
thought it was 10
I
kids.
think you should retro it to this
we
year.
want to retro.
Well, why don't you
But
retro
I thought it was
5
10
years ago?
kids.
because they're already graduated and teaching.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm
It
just
would
one
be for
person,
this
but
year.
I'd like
It
a
would
little
be
more.
to retro it, and then we could go
We could
on.
talk about it.
and set that out.
The conversation.
I agree.
But if you talk to that parent,
Okay.
if you talk to that parent, you'd understand, well, you were one. But it's really hard to explain why that happened, and he had to do it.
Well, I can't do it well because I can see the point.
Yeah.
I think it's very
Well,
valid.
but when
But
you,
we're still doing all the other stuff we wanted to do. We're
Yeah.
still helping everyone else. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not talking about, and maybe I'm not explaining it correctly.
Yeah,
We're not talking about
No,
anything
no,
different.
The way you make it sound, you're not helping everyone else because you're giving the top monies to the top students.
But they're still
And
gonna get
the other
theirs.
students that,
There's a finite amount of money,
It's gonna be, one student already got the top money based on the system.
but now we're gonna guarantee it, right?
yeah, it's like a guarantee, so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Alex didn't get it. Her writing wasn't good enough, you know? It's okay.
But,
It's okay, she got
but
it.
it's subjective, really. The whole process is subjective because one year, when the boys weren't
Because I
even
was
involved, I had
It's
to read
okay
all the
for
essays.
you.
Me
Well,
and then
no, I
another
was saying
English, and then an English teacher, so really, it's just odd, the whole
We're gonna
process.
change the guidelines. we should.
I move we table this item
Yeah,
until
I
further
think-
discussion.
I second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded to table it. All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nice talking to you, Jesse.
No. Voted no.
Sorry, Jesse.
Hey,
Next time, Jesse, get at the front of the list, not behind everybody
Now
else.
we're tired and hungry.
We still have another hour in the executive session.
Don't talk to us when
I'm
we're
gonna go
tired
home.
and
Hey,
hungry.
you only probably worked 20 hours on this. Come back with 40 hours and see what you can do.
Anyway, great job, Jesse, we really appreciate it.
Do it.
All right, what else you got? All right, do you have anything before closed session?
And this would have been a way to make sure
Board meeting in July because we're gonna be out on the.
that my second daughter
Gosh, y'all are always out.
got a nice scholarship.
Living the dream.
But that, you know, that's not what I was told when I first started. I thought it was supposed to be for like the average kid.
We are
like
having a
not,
Southwest
you know,
immunization drive, August the 3rd at
10
McCall.
years ago. Of course, I could have changed.
And I know that Mr. Richard Torres would like to make some announcements for our summer fine arts culminating in tonight.
We don't have no money,
But
Richard.
no, he just said he was presenting the next budget item at our July brown bag.
Brown bag until this, and I just was informed as well.
Well, we normally don't have brown bag in July, but we can't put one on if we need to.
I can bring it to July 14th.
So the meeting's gonna be July 24th?
I won't be here.
All right, so this Thursday will be some of the culminating events for the Fine Arts Academy. We want to thank the board for their decision to proceed with the Fine Arts Academy this year again. At 12:30, all of these dates are on this coming Thursday, the 21st. At 12:30 in the afternoon, at Resnick, our middle school 7th grade bands will perform on stage there in the cafeteria. At 1 o'clock at Legacy, we will have our secondary choir and our Legacy Mariachi group also performing in the band hall and the choir hall. At 6 o'clock in the evening, also at Legacy in the Black Box Theater, there will be the play Picnic. You might remember that one as a play, but also it was a movie set back in the 50s. And at 7:15 in the evening, we will have the musical, which is 101 Dalmatians. So with a cast of about 75 students, and that will be in the auditorium. So there'll be several performances. I encourage you to attend to see the fruition of all your support. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's total, so.
All right,
That's all.
under Government Code 551-001-551.416, we're going to executive session. We're ready to come back into regular session at 20 minutes to 9. And Dr.
I move we approve the superintendent's recommendation on personnel.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded on the personnel. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. You better jump at it. You might not get another chance.
I appreciate you guys supporting me on that. do some introductions of new positions, and I'll start back here. Mr. J.J. Pettis is going to become the principal at Southwest Academy, and, I'm sorry, EAP, Southwest EAP, and going to hold on to part of Southwest Academy, keep that going for us in some capacity. Congratulations, J.J. Pettis. Mr. Adrian Ramirez, sitting to JJ's right there, is the new principal at Indian Creek Elementary. Ms. Tracy Meyer is our new principal at Hidden Cove Elementary. Congratulations. Mark Figueroa is becoming the executive director of school safety, transportation, and policy. So congratulations to Mark as well. Did I get them all? Sorry. Congratulations.
You don't have anything else? Mr. Sullivan, you have an announcement? All right, we're adjourned at 17 minutes to 9.